Hey guys, welcome back to Loft Sports. I'm Tyler.
I'm Seth.
We're going to be looking at the playoff picture now that month 2 of the college football season has come and gone.
Yep.
October in the books. We've got 1 month left. There's still a lot to play for, but we've got a pretty clear picture now of who the remaining teams are in the playoff picture.
Some teams have been eliminated from their conference, the divisional rankings, everything like that have kind of shaped out. Got some clear favorites in some divisions, some guys that have they can control their own destiny.
Yeah.
So just going over those, giving that update like we did last month. Go ahead and start in the Pac-12.
So out west, there's really only 2 teams left that have an outside chance at the college football playoff.
Mm-hmm.
Oregon being one, Utah being the other. The Ducks control their destiny in the north. The Utes control their destiny in the south. Both are on a collision course to meet in Santa Clara for the Pac-12 championship. Do these teams have a chance to get in?
I really don't think they do. I think there's too much of a kind of like a stigma on the Pac-12 that they're just not good enough as some of these other conferences. They have a couple good top teams that are definitely worthy of like a Rose Bowl, New Year's Six, but I wouldn't say playoffs yet. Oregon was that team. I think they are the best team in the Pac-12 right now. I think they'll win the Pac-12, but I don't see it being good enough for a playoff spot.
When we did our videos in the summer, I actually had Oregon in the playoff, but a lot of that was the meat that they would have gotten had they beat Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
And now that Auburn has lost a couple games, Auburn still has to play Georgia, still has to play Alabama.
There's going to be a couple more losses on their
so
schedule.
that loss looks worse and worse as time goes on.
Mm-hmm.
Even with a conference championship under their belt, I'm not sure the Pac-12 would have enough to get in. Their non-conference schedule just doesn't have the oomph, especially with that Auburn loss. And even though Notre Dame suffered another loss and Oklahoma lost, I still think they would probably be behind even a runner-up in a conference if it was the right team. So Pac-12 still has a pulse, but it's fading fast.
Mm-hmm.
Big 12, Oklahoma goes down in Manhattan, and that opens the door for some other teams.
Yeah, I mean, it really does. I mean, Oklahoma was the clear-cut team that really had a shot here. Baylor having a really good year, but this was always Oklahoma's to, since the start of the year, beating Texas. It was they were controlling it. Then they had their slip-up and they lost, and I don't really know if a one-loss Oklahoma team is going to be good enough because of the conference they play in to actually make it to the playoff. I think they'll have a strong case, but I think they're going to need some help, maybe another slip-up along the way from some of these undefeated teams ahead of them. But they're still very much in it. They'd be just outside my 4 right now. They'd be like my number 5 or 6 right now. That's kind of where I see them, but they do definitely have a chance.
Well, I will say this. Oklahoma has gotten in the last 2 seasons with a loss, and now that the Big 12 has a championship game, I think that adds to it. The problem is that Texas lost again to TCU, so now, even if they beat somebody on that final Saturday, who are they really gaining enough against a 2 or 3 loss team potentially to get in? Now, we can't outlook Baylor either. They're still undefeated. They got a game tonight against West Virginia, but is Baylor really capable of winning out or even finishing with only 1 loss? I don't think so.
No, I don't think they are. I mean, I think there's kind of this certain belief in football that you are where you're at for a reason. Baylor's one of those schools that's a second tier school for a reason. They'll slip up eventually. The football gods will correct that quick.
ACC, really the only team left is Clemson. Everybody else has at least 2 losses in that conference. This is not unexpected. We knew it was Clemson and everybody else.
Yeah.
The question is really is Clemson, if they lose, can they still get in? I don't think so.
I think if you take out the last couple years, no. But the fact that the playoff committee knows what they're capable of, and the fact that they've done it, we've seen it in the past.
It's supposed to be the year, not what you've done.
It is hard to discredit a team. That's why, like, when Alabama has 1 loss, it's hard to discredit success.
Yeah. Because
it's the one thing you can't argue with. Winning is winning. Clemson has won. Clemson is still one of the best teams in the country. I don't see them losing a game, but if they did, I still think what they've done over the last couple of years in the playoff committee's eyes, they'd still, I think, have a really good shot at getting in.
They can't lose the ACC title game, though. They have to win their conference.
No, they have to win the conference.
And the loss needs to be, I don't even know who they could lose to. NC State might be the best
It would have to be a situation where Trevor Lawrence goes down in the game early or something like that, and a backup comes in and just can't quite get him the win, something like that. That'd be the only way a loss could be, not that bad.
Yeah, that's a good point. SEC, we've got some teams here. Georgia and Florida play. Georgia and Florida play Saturday. That is a de facto playoff game. The loser of that one is pretty much out of it.
Yep.
And the winner of that game pretty much locks up the East.
Yeah.
Quick prediction on that?
Right now, I like the way Florida's playing a little bit better than Georgia.
Georgia has not looked good
They
all year, but I think this is going to be Georgia's moment to shine. I think they're going to get it right, and I think Jake Fromm has got to have a coming out party, and I think he will. I think Dogs are going to find a way to win.
I think there's more pressure on Georgia.
Oh, absolutely. This was supposed to be their year. It's only year 2 under Dan Mullen. Georgia's been in the playoff and knocking on the door last couple of years.
That's where I think the pressure, you can either handle the pressure or you can't. They've already kind of stumbled a little bit. I don't trust them right now. I think Florida's playing better. I trust them a little bit better, so I'll go with them.
Okay, I'm going to go with Georgia. And then, of course, we got the big one next week. We won't pick on that just yet. Yeah. But LSU and Alabama, the big question really is the loser of that game, can they still get in? I think there's an avenue they can.
They can, as long as that's their only loss. Which it probably will be when we're talking about these two teams. I think right now LSU is one of the 2 best teams in the country, the way they're playing. I think they have the Heisman frontrunner right now. A lot of people would probably agree with that. They're clicking on all cylinders. The defense is as good as it always is. LSU looks really good. And I think if whoever wins that game is obviously in control of maybe even the number 1 overall spot in the playoff. But the loser of that game, as long as it's a close game and no one gets boat raced, they should still fall in the contention for the 4th spot.
I will say this. I think Alabama needs to win more. LSU has a win over Texas. They have a win over Auburn. They have a win over Florida. LSU's got more meat on their resume. Alabama has 1 top 25 win right now.
And that's A&M.
And A&M's probably going to lose some more games for the years out. They still have to play LSU too, so
not quite an elite team.
And Alabama's playing this game at home. If LSU loses close and that's their only loss with the wins LSU's already accumulated, I think they're in better shape than if Alabama loses at home, this is really their only.
The loser does have to run the table.
Oh, absolutely. There's no way a 2-loss team gets in there.
Not even bad.
And then the Big Ten, we've still got 3 undefeated teams in the Big Ten: Penn State and Ohio State, and then Minnesota is undefeated. Now that's going to change in 2 weeks because Minnesota and Penn State play. But
Minnesota I think is taking advantage of an easy schedule so far.
Yeah, it's backloaded.
Yeah, and I think they're going to start to fall, but we're sitting here 2 months into the college football season, and Minnesota is in complete control of the West Division right now.
Yeah, they could afford a loss and still be in good shape.
They can. It's shocking actually, but that's where it is in the West. I still think Wisconsin's the best team in the West.
Yeah.
Wisconsin still has a chance there. But in the East, that's where it gets interesting to me, was with Penn State and Ohio State, because Penn State over the last couple of years has been so close.
Can Penn State go into the horseshoe?
Right.
And if they lose close, do they have enough on their resume to get in as a second Big Ten team?
I don't think there can be 2 Big Ten teams. I don't know. I think the SEC is just so
the only way there's
power loaded.
The only way that 2 Big Ten teams are getting in is if somehow Minnesota goes undefeated. And this is not happening, but if Minnesota goes undefeated and beats Ohio State, then Ohio State could get in as an at-large.
Sure.
That's not happening.
Ohio State's the only one of those teams that could get in as a second team.
Correct.
Because they are Ohio State.
Right. And I don't think they're going to lose to anybody on their schedule. Michigan, just because it's a rivalry, maybe. If Michigan proves this Notre Dame game wasn't just Notre Dame sucking and Michigan maybe turned a corner, maybe, but we'll see.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so we've got our teams right now. Mm-hmm. Who do you see at the end of the season as the Final Four?
I have LSU, Ohio State, Clemson, and Alabama, and I think I like it in that order.
Okay, so you think Alabama will lose to LSU and still get in?
I do think they will, and I think because they are Bama, they do have that proven success. I mean, I call it the annual Nick Saban Final Four for a reason. Bama, if they're a one-loss team, they'll be in, and no one's going to want to play them.
Okay. So my Final Four, I've got Alabama. I think they take care of LSU at home in a classic. Ohio State, I think they run the table and win the Big Ten. Clemson, I don't see anybody in the ACC beating them. They're undefeated and in. And then Oklahoma. I think the Sooners will run the table, and I think being a conference champion is just so important to the committee. As great as LSU has been, and even though I think they'll finish 11-1, I think the committee is going to give the nod to OU simply because they will be a conference champion.
Gotcha.
That'll be debatable whether they're more deserving, but that's what I think will end up happening. So, all right, guys, thanks so much. This is Loft Sports, signing off.